So I'm going to go ahead and start recording just for anybody who might have missed it. And this is our October Families of Juniors meeting, and we've just gone through the agenda, which you can see on the screen. Feel free to use the chat at any time. I invite you to chat and introduce yourselves if you'd like. I invite you to chat any questions that you have that come up while we're discussing things. I invite you to use the chat privately if there's something that isn't quite working or you have a private question about. This is your time, okay? And so I'll keep monitoring the chat if there's anything that comes up there, and I'll keep going. All right, so just an overall thing that you are now entering as a junior yourself, or if as a parent of a junior, family of juniors. A lot of questions are going to start coming your way if they haven't already, right? Because adults in your life want something to connect with you about, and so they're going to start saying, oh, junior year, that's such a big year, all those classes really count so much, and what are you thinking about doing next? And so I'm inviting us all to take a collective deep breath. And in that moment, I'm going to offer you this script that you can turn that question of you into a question of the person who's asking, because really they want to connect with you. And probably they have a story of their own that they're like thinking, ooh, I have this story that I want to connect with this young person or with this fellow parent about. And so I invite you to say something like, I'm not sure, but I'm really enjoying looking into the options. How about you? Where did you go to college? And then if they went to college, or did you go to college? And if they did, then you can ask them, how did you decide to where you decided to go? And what did you like or not like about that? And if they didn't go, how cool is that? Um, how did you get to where you are now? What did you like or dislike about that experience? So I just want to put it out there, and feel free to chat about this if you've already experienced this, that people really just want to connect with you. So steps are take a deep breath and turn the question back on the person. And I think it'll be a fun ride for junior year. And you'll learn a whole bunch about other people and their paths to college or career. And that's really my goal for you. You'll see that really soon there's an assignment about actually doing that, interviewing somebody. All right, so this is your chance to reflect right now. If you're a teen, the questions at the top are for you. If you're a family member, the questions in the middle are for you. And the homework at the bottom is something that you can do over the course of this next month, or potentially after this meeting tonight. So think about, do you want to go to college? Yes, no, maybe. And then, or do you want your child to go to college? Yes, no, maybe. And then the questions for the teens are the same as for the family members. Why? Okay, so first, I'm going to ask you to do that, the first top level question, then the why, and then listing out your top 3 reasons for the answer for the why. And then keep going on, share reasons for the teens, share reasons that you think other people in your life want you to go to college. And for family members, think about any concerns you might have or any doubts you have along the way. We can get a start on that right now. You're probably not going to be able to do the deep thinking that you need to do about this in this moment. I'm going to be sending out these activities as homework follow-up. So let's get a start right now. I'm going to set a timer for a few minutes and check in with people individually in the private chat. And I invite you to just take a moment and reflect and do some writing. Okay. Just checking in here. I know I've had the feedback from people who some love writing, some hate writing. So what are some ways that we could do this if you didn't want to do the writing, right? Could you do some drawing about this? Could you do some talking out with your family, like mute the Zoom and talk about this? Um, let's see, what are some other ideas? Definitely drawing is one that people um, do, right? When they want to talk about their vision of the future, sometimes painting, sometimes movement, sometimes sculpture, all those things can work. So cool. Any big ahas that came up before we go on? I'm going to be checking in with each of you individually about this stuff afterwards. So, but any big ahas anybody wants to share? Okay, well, let me just say that there are many reasons to want to go to college or not go to college. And each person might hold many reasons within them, right? Some things could be related to a degree, um, and some things could be related to relationships or friends or networking. Some things could be related to getting out of the city where you are and going to somewhere new. Um, Lots of different reasons that people would want to go to college or not go to college. And I'm looking forward to thinking that through with each of you. But it's really important to get grounded into that why so that when people are coming at you, like, what do you want to do? What are you thinking? Um, that you have an answer that, ultimately when you decide what you want to do, which is a long time from now, your decision matches up with the what you want to do and why you want to do it. And so I just invite you to have that conversation as an individual, but also in the context of your family, not only in these next couple of weeks, but really over the course of the next 18 months. Um, okay, so I'm going to ask them to follow up via email with a ask for you to have a come together activity where the teen gets to start and share their responses. And I'll tell you about another part about the interview next. And then family members, where you respond to the student first. Was there anything that surprised you? Any interface with the students' impressions, and then think about your own responses to the prompts, and then together reflect on places where you were in alignment, places where you had differences, and if there's anything left that needs to be said. So two things from this. One I'll say after this, and this next one is I'd invite the young people or families if you want. I know that, like, I was just thinking about when my son, who's now in college, was starting to think about where he might like to go. I knew there were some people who I knew he didn't know who had went to a some different colleges that I thought he might be interested in. And so I just invited them over for, like coffee or a meal or, different things. And so it was a way for him to ask about how they got where they wanted, how they got to where they were, what they liked, what they didn't like, etc. And it wasn't high pressure and it was fun. And so maybe families can help. If not, young people, this is on you. It's going to be fun, I promise. It might be scary at the beginning, but find a person who either is in college or who has graduated college and ask them some things about their journey. And I've put a few questions here, and you can think about what feels comfortable to ask them. But I invite you to do that and take some notes so that when we meet up next, you can tell me about it, like how that went and what you learned from them. And then when you get together in your meeting, you guys can use that interview also. And then the other thing I'd like you as a family to think about is how do you imagine this time going between now and really the end of senior year when you're making decision about where to go next or what you might do next? How do you imagine you might grow as an individual and as a family during this transition? And how do you want this time to be for you and your family? There's a book that I really recommend that I'm not sending you. I'm sending you a whole bunch of other books, but this set of books is called The Truth About College Admission, A Family Guide, and there's a workbook in it. And that's where some of these exercises come from. And I'll probably bring that up at our monthly meetings each time, some of those exercises. But if you want to know where it's coming from here. And Rick Clark and Brennan Barnard are the folks who wrote this book, and they recommend that you make some intention about when you're going to talk about this life after high school planning, because it can be really overwhelming and feel like a lot to the young person. You know, we adults, we have been there, we know what it's like to be an adult, and it's not as scary to us because we've been there already. But when you're a junior in high school, it can feel sometimes pretty overwhelming. I don't know if the juniors here would agree. But they don't get just questions from parents. They get questions from all those other adults, you know, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How's it going to work? You know, and so these guys recommend that you designate a time to talk about it. And so sometimes people say, okay, let's do it weekly. Some people say, let's just do it monthly. Some people, you know, they come together to the session with me and that's their time to talk about it. But I invite you to think through with your family, when does it make sense? Some people are like, we're just talking about it whenever, you know, it doesn't bother us, Brennan. Stop trying to micromanage our family. You know, so you guys decide what works for you. And then thinking about what else might you want or need to do or discuss in order to help this be a time that is sprinkled with, right? It's not all the time, unity, wellness, and joy, because that is the intention that we have here. And that's one of my goals in my practice, is to help families have this time be like that. So any thoughts or feedback? So I invite you to do that. Again, I'm going to send this out right after this. All right, so switching gears, a few nuts and bolts. Feel free to stand up and move or get your favorite fidget toy, whatever it is. This week in Seattle, and I don't know if it's true in other places in the country, I think it might be, that it's time to do the PSAT for 11th graders. And so some people ask me, should I do that? Should I prepare for that? In general, I just want to say that certainly make a decision as a family, whatever makes sense for you, or as a junior, decide what makes sense for you. I do say anytime I'm going in for a test, I do like to prepare just so I can, you know, feel better about my experience. I don't like to feel like I don't know what I'm doing. So that's me. And the PSAT does count for some things, but you have to decide whether those are things that you value. So one is as a preparation for a future SAT, so that can be a helpful thing. The second is there is this thing called the National Merit Scholarship, and it is worth very little money and is only a bragging right thing, and you have to decide whether that's something that is important to you. So we can talk individually about it, but I just wanted to give you my 2 cents on that. And then decide when you're going into the PSAT or any kind of standardized test that colleges have access to, that's a time when you want to make an intentional decision about whether you want to sign up to get mail from colleges. So if you put in your email address and your snail mail address, colleges will potentially buy your contact information and send you a deluge of information, and you can opt out of that, or you can opt into that, and you could potentially have an email address that's dedicated to that purpose. So it could, like, if you've always had Rainbow Bunny 722 as your email address, this could be the moment to have your email address like brennanford@gmail.com, and you create that and you use it just for college stuff and you put that in. So I invite you to consider that. And not seeing anything in the chat, I am going to keep going. I've probably shown you something like this, and we will talk about this individually, but again, this is the reminder of the kind of timeline that we're going to be working with. This is where we are junior year, and we have all these months to build out your college list, explore careers, explore whether you want to go to college at all or a gap year or whatever it is. That's the main project. We'll also be checking in with you about testing, like we were just talking about, helping you get ready to do a resume if needed for your apps, to have teachers who will recommend you. So just a note on that is that it's teachers from junior year, generally speaking, who are the ones who do recommendations, and they are in your humanities, social sciences / history, science, math. Those are mostly the places that the colleges want their recs to come from. So it's time to get your brown nose out and no, I mean, but work with, try to make connections with those teachers this year so that they could potentially recommend you. And then we'll keep working over the summer. And by this time next year, you will be finishing up your applications and getting them off and being too cool for school. It'll be really awesome. If you haven't seen this yet, you will be getting this in a packet from me. This is kind of our timeline of meetings. It's going to go very quickly across your screen right now, but you will get a chance to see that more in depth and put one on your fridge if you want to. For parents, if you haven't already gotten in, this is going to be, and students, we're going to use a software to manage our system together. And so let's set a first meeting if we haven't already, and we'll get you in. It's going to help with searching for schools and learning about all the details about them. Parents also, now is the time if you want to be doing financial planning for college, or at least forecasting the prices of college as far as your family is concerned. I offer a program called College Aid Pro, and at our first meeting, we would get you set up with that. And then my final thing about testing is that we're going to talk individually about this. The big idea is that if you are thinking of testing this year, SAT or ACT, in the next month or two, it's time to work on signing up for those sessions. Like, when during the year are you going to do that? So I'm saying that while parents are here with me, so that you know that you and your student would want to think about that, make a plan for it, and go ahead and register. So, okay, and the last thing I wanted to, we'll start off with this at our next group session, is about visiting schools. There are lots of ways to visit schools virtually, but if you want to visit them in person, now is the time to maybe think through your year. What will be those opportunities, those times that you might naturally have days off from school, or you're already planning a trip to an area, and that you could build in some college visits? Because I know it may seem early, but junior year is the time to really be focusing on exposure to types of places you might want to go. And if you can stick in some visits early, that's great. Of course, you might have a spring break trip planned, and that's great. You and I, we can work on making sure you've got a bunch of discernment about colleges done before your spring break trip planning happens, so that you know where to plan that trip. That is possible as well. If you don't have funds for going on a trip to visit places, I think that's no problem. You can visit places virtually, and you can also visit the schools right around where you live. That it's just free to sign up, and we can talk in our individual sessions about how to do that if you don't already know. And I generally recommend that people visit small, medium, and large schools, even if you've decided already in your mind that you only want one or the other. It's great to just do a bit of exploring. This is your year to really explore, okay? And then parents, I encourage people to visit colleges that it's possible for your student to attend, okay? So I know that, I mean, everybody could probably attend everywhere, but there are sometimes, something about your students grades or temperament or distance from home desires, and you don't really want to say like, oh, let's go visit, some completely pie in the sky school that they can't possibly attain, as at least as your first one, right? Like, choose something that is within range, because people want to feel successful in life, right? They don't want to feel like they're disappointing people, and they want to feel like they have possibilities. Like, I'll just say that, young people, that there are places where you can go to school, period. Like, you will go to college if you want to go to college. It's not, there are enough places for everyone to go. And there are some schools that you just need to put in an application and then you can go. And they're perfectly excellent schools where you could get a very good degree and a very good job. So all is not lost. Okay, that's about what I've got. And I know I went a little long, but I'd be glad to hear a couple of questions or see questions in the chat. My 8 o'clock person is used to me being slightly late. These are the books and resources I'm going to send you or bring to you if we're living close to each other. And this is how to contact me. The next session like this will be probably November 13th at 7:30. Oops, I didn't put a closed. Anyway, I'm going to be visiting schools in California and going to a conference and visiting with some of you then. And so I may not be able to do it, but I'm going to try to do that. Okay, that's the official end. Who's got some questions or things they want to ask about? Or should we just say thank you so much for spending this brief amount of time? I'll send an email of this, and I hope you continue the conversation about what is your why. Anybody? All right. How about shoot me a chat about where you are before you sign off? How about that? Okay. Oh, great. Yes, question was about, there's a college fair coming up, and they are traveling around the country, and it is stopping in Seattle on November 5th. And what it's going to be is a big conference center kind of thing where there are tables set up. And my experience of those things is, like way too many things going on. But it can be really good if you go in there thinking like, all right, I'm going to go to 5 tables or fewer, 2, 3, whatever. I'm going to talk with those people. In fact, I might decide that I'm going to go to 5 tables where there's no line. I'm just going to go talk to the people for 5, of the 5 places, hear what they have to say about their school, maybe pick up their literature, and then go away. Or maybe you look at the list of all the places that are going to be there and you identify a few schools that you particularly want to visit with. And then go to just those tables and then leave. Other people really love going there and they're stimulated by the environment and they go from table to table and talk to people. The advantage of going to those things is that you meet the admissions rep, and that admissions rep, generally speaking, is your regional admissions rep from that school, and they are going to be the first person who's going to look at your application when it comes in. So those are real people, and it's their job to do this, and it's much more fun for them when you come see them. There you go. That's my 2 cents. You can also get into college without going to the college fair. So it's not a requirement. It's just an opportunity to discover some places that you may not have heard of. And young people in junior year generally haven't heard of most places. They've just heard of the brand name schools or the ones that are on TV with football or basketball or whatever. And it can be a real eye-opening experience, like, wow, look at all these places that I can go. That was a great question. Anything else? Okay, short and sweet. Please go, let me put up your why, the whys question again. Please go think about your whys, and I look forward to seeing you at our next individual meetings if they are before November 13th. Otherwise, I'll see you November 13th. Okay, I'm going to stop recording, and if anybody wants to